How about that? Um, we're live. He's Griff. I'm Chip. It's the Chip and Griff Show. It's Tuesday. That means we're talking Georgia football on your Dog Nation Facebook page. We take your comments. We talk to you right here through this lens. And this week we talk. Well, I guess we need to wrap up Florida. We hadn't had a chance to visit about that, but we have seen you in other forums. And you know, just like we expected, a momentous game against Kentucky at Kentucky, and I'm being a little facetious there, but it's not a total surprise in that at SEC media days and everybody kind of warned about Kentucky. Kentucky's good; they got a veteran team back. Um, we've arrived at this place. Both teams 7-1, both teams 5-1, both teams have beaten Florida, and Georgia's got to go to road to Commonwealth Stadium to play a team that when you start breaking it down, is kind of strong where Georgia's weak. So, Georgia's a huge favorite as well. They should be probably, um, but the road leads through Lexington, Kentucky. You surprised by that? Number one, and let's touch on that matchup a little bit, and then we'll revisit Florida, and then we'll come back to the matchup.
Okay. Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't buy into Kentucky in the preseason, and I'm really not bought into Kentucky. Yeah, they were very fortunate to beat Missouri. They got the benefit what I thought was a really bad call in the end zone.
Yeah, that interference call.
The rusher that someone compared to Herschel Walker had 67 yards against Missouri rushing, and they're an experienced group, and certainly Kentucky's full of itself. They're taking out ads on billboards in New York City on Times Square, and I say enjoy it while you can. They've put themselves in position for a marquee matchup. They've given themselves a chance to shock the world, play the perfect game Saturday. That's what they'll need to do, Chip, because this Georgia team is about as loose as they've been all year. A lot of weight lifted off their shoulders off of that Florida game, and this year's Georgia team needed that. People look at Georgia and like to think, well, this is last year's team. It's not. This is not last year's team. This year's team needed that shot of confidence. Jake Fromm needed to get it done with this group of receivers. Jeremiah Holloman needed to emerge, and he did. Jordan Davis needed to emerge at nose guard, and we're starting to see some of these young guys play key roles because Georgia lost a lot of talent off last year's team, and I think you saw that at the goal line, Chip. I don't think Sony Michelle or Nick Chubb would have been stopped on 6 carries from the 1 yard line. I don't care how bad the blocking.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if you go to Dog Nation after you follow us on this podcast, of course, Mike's got a bunch of good stories up there. I've filed a Towers take, which kind of touches exactly on what Mike's talking about. That Kirby talks about toughness and physicality. I don't even know if technically physicality is really a word, but we hear it a lot in football. It's a word in football. There's no question. It's one that, and in fact, it's one of Kirby Smart's three core principles, the pillars he calls them, build program on, and you'll see that all over the Butts Maryville.
What are the three?
Their discipline,
Yeah.
composure,
Yeah.
and physicality.
Yep.
And kind of the point I was making there was that Georgia wasn't doing well on all three fronts early in the year because this is a young team, as we've talked about. I think slowly but surely they answered disciplinary. They had a lot of penalties early in the season. Uh, and I thought they did not answer, or stand up on the pillar of composure against LSU. But I think they did against Florida. I mean, I think we saw that from, in that 2 weeks in the bye week.
Yeah.
Georgia goes down 14-13 in the third quarter. There was every opportunity in the world to collapse right there, but they didn't. They went back down and scored. And then, of course, it was later in that quarter that you alluded to. 7 plays, actually, when you take out the 2 penalties, or when you count the plays that were 2 penalties, it was 7 plays from the 1 yard line. I've never seen anything like that. Todd Grantham said he'd never seen anything like that. It was unbelievable. And I agree with a lot of Georgia fans too on that. The play calling wasn't exactly very ingenuitive in that scenario,
Well,
but it comes back to those core principles. I think that's why you kept seeing trying to hammer it in.
Well,
there,
here's the thing. You ran wide with Swift and you lost a yard. The last thing you want to do is get sacked like you did earlier in the game.
Yeah.
You get a first and goal 7.
Mhm.
and I think Holyfield got stopped for no gain, and then Jake got sacked on the second play.
Right.
So you don't want to go backwards, and that's not Jim. I'm going to be clear. That's not Jim Chaney. Jim Chaney is one of the most creative offensive coordinators out there. I would almost guarantee you the head coach is on the headset saying, "Run it again, run it again,"
Yeah.
because Kirby wants that ability to run a yard and impose the will.
Yeah.
That's the head coach saying that. That's what he wants this team to be. And I don't, Georgia's got to take a long look in the mirror now, just like they did during the bye week, Chip. And they got to say, okay, guys, if we get in this situation again against a good defensive front like Kentucky does have,
Oh yeah.
what are we going to do? Are we going to try and run it a yard, or are we going to put some different personnel back there, maybe?
Yeah. There's and that's and that was kind of the point I was making. That's the last you know, check that they have to make. And Kirby alluded to it in the news conference where he's saying, somebody asked, what can you do about that to address that? Talking about both the run defense and the ability to run in short yard situations. And he effectively said, we can't trade for other players. I mean, it wasn't in a way that he was throwing his players under the bus. He was just saying, there's only so much that we could do. Now, I think you alluded to it. Jordan Davis addressed it a little bit. I don't know if his latest move with Notori Johnson going over there. I don't think
More
I don't
depth?
more depth. I don't know how quickly he can make a difference, but he is 6'4", 325 pounds. I mean, he's a big honker, and he played defensive line at Cedar Grove High, as most of those kids do both ways. He's not finding his way on the field on the offensive line, and that guy was a 5-star, 4-star kind of guy out of Atlanta. So they're doing whatever they can. But at the end of the day, your personnel is your personnel. Your offensive line is your offensive line. And I went back and watched the video of that whole series, the 7 plays. And you have to note across the line, you got Kendall Baker at left tackle instead of Andrew Thomas. You've got Solomon Kinley at left guard where he's supposed to be, Lamont Hilliard at center where he's supposed to be. Then you got Cade Mays at right guard, and you got Isaiah Wilson at uh, at right tackle. That's freshman, 2 seniors, one a backup. The other one, Lamont Hilliard, for all that he is, and he's a great line. We hear it from opposing coaches all the time, but he's not a huge guy at center. They kept trying. That's where they kept trying to go. Left guard, left guard, left guard, and they couldn't punch it in. This will be an issue against Kentucky. I'm sitting here looking at their depth chart, and I'm holding an iPad here to take your comments. Mike can see them, and I can see them. So be sure and ask us your questions, and we'll get to them. But I'm sitting here going down through their depth chart here, Mike, and it's kind of like what we were looking at with Georgia last year. You got senior, 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 senior. 13 seniors, 14 if you count the place kicker, and all those guys played against Georgia 2 years ago when Georgia needed a Rodrigo Blankenship field goal to beat them. So I am a little bit reserved about this game. I mean, what was the line?
Started at 12, down to 9.5.
Down to 9.5, which I think is about right. I mean, it's. I think it's going to be a war. I think again, it's kind of like the Florida game to me. I think Georgia at this point in Kirby Smart's process, they like to call it, that Georgia has the better personnel generally, but they don't have the best experience. And Benny Snell, Josh Allen, the guys that Kentucky is combating you with, those guys are very, very experienced and bring a lot to the table. So I mean, Georgia's going to have to play very, very well, and they're going to have to live up to that last pillar, in my opinion, which is physicality, and then we'll see if they can.
Yeah, and I think they will. Georgia's now been in some big game environments, whether it was South Carolina, LSU, Florida. This is really Kentucky's first chance in the limelight. And I don't know that they can handle it, Jeff. I got questions, but I know that Jake Fromm can handle it. I know that Kirby Smart can handle it. I know that defense can handle it. Georgia got humbled at LSU, and that forced Georgia to hold themselves accountable and get back to focusing on the little things. And it forced the coaching staff into some tough decisions at different positions. And they cut some rotations. And, hey, that's not to say the same guys are going to be out there this week, because yesterday's practice was very competitive while we were out there. You heard a lot.
It was.
We heard a lot of noise, a lot of guys going at each other.
I heard him say East a lot. It was interesting.
Yeah.
Here, the outside linebacker, Dan Lanning, it was an interesting thing he kept saying. The edge is for the East. The edge is for the East. Obviously, his guys protect the edge, and he's talking about winning the East in
Here's
there.
what I think needs to change for Georgia. You mentioned how these teams match up and how Kentucky's strengths are Georgia's weaknesses. Conversely, Georgia's strengths are Kentucky's weaknesses. For example, Kentucky is last in the SEC in passing with about 148 yards per game.
Right.
Georgia, I think, has the best secondary in the SEC. So now, maybe Kirby Smart doesn't play two deep safeties as he has all year. I mean, Georgia's been very good at not giving up big plays. In fact, they lead the nation. They've only given up 16 plays of 20 yards or more. And now maybe Kirby is going to have to say, you know what, this has worked for us all year. But against Kentucky, a team that maybe isn't as great a threat, throwing the ball downfield, it's more of a threat in the run game. Maybe they drop the safety closer to the line and we see more man free in the back, less too deep, and some bigger bodies up front. Maybe that's why they moved Notori Johnson to the line because they're going
Hmm.
to put some big bodies up there and maybe kind of scheme them up. I feel really good about Kirby Smart and Mel Tucker. I think they're two of the best defensive coaches in the country. And I think that they're going to be able to scheme Kentucky. And then, Chip, to me, it comes down to Georgia's ability to throw the football.
Hmm.
And I feel good with where Jake Fromm's at right now. And I feel good about that receiving core right now.
Yeah, I think Griff makes some very good points there, and this is the one time where I think, I think Georgia was careful against Florida, and for good reason. With wide receivers like Van Jefferson over there, you just didn't want to sell out.
Like you did on the first play of the game, that game could have been
That could have been very good. He was wide open.
very
He just hit
similar to
some-
Jake over Storm McCoy at LSU.
Yeah, it shows you what effect that had. You have to take advantage of your opportunities when you have it. And yeah, I think you might see some single safety against Georgia and just force those guys to throw the football, outnumber them in the box. And I would think, Georgia severely dominates in an outnumbered box against this bunch. And then you're going to have to take a chance on Tyson Campbell and some of those young guys being able to handle their guys one on one. And hey, you're Georgia, they're Kentucky. You're supposed to be able to handle this one on one. Great comments here. There's a lot. There's while we're talking here, you set off a great debate about Jim Chaney. One guy on here, I forget it was, said that wrong. Jim Chaney got fired from Pitt. That's not true. Georgia
No,
actually
it's not.
hired him from
Yeah.
Pitt.
I know Pat
Um,
Narduzzi. He didn't fire Jim Chaney. He's
No.
thrilled to have Jim Chaney on staff.
Yeah, it's Jim Chaney is not. This is, and I said this going back to Mike Bobo and whoever was offensive coordinator before that, Rick or Jim Donnan. I mean, play callers, your calls are only as good as the players executing them. And certainly my problem with the 7 play line was their defensive end. I kept saying it in the press box to Mike. I mean, I forget his name, was just
But
crashing.
he's not supposed to get there in time.
Well,
That's the
but he
whole
did.
point.
I understand the point, but it's like he's crashing like he is. You just got to take advantage. You just got to say, okay, well, fine, we'll go outside it. They didn't get, and here's the other thing: they didn't go right one time. They went
No.
left the entire time. That's where the end was crashing from the offense's right side to the left end. So, but hey, we can always do that. We can always talk about play calls. This game for certain is not going to come down to play calls. It's going to come down to something much more than that. Take a look at that. Let me see if I can get
Yeah,
this
let's
light
take a look at
situation
that.
fixed up.
David Bell. What do we have? Who do we have that can block Josh Allen? I think it's going to be the game within the game. And Josh Allen, Kentucky does have a disruptive player there in Josh Allen. But listen, Georgia's played better teams than Kentucky. And LSU's a better team than Kentucky. I'm not sure that Missouri was a better team than Kentucky. Quite frankly, I mean they had that game in control. It was 14-3. Late in the fourth quarter. Tennessee may be a better team than Kentucky. Florida lost early on, but if they played that game again, I'd probably bet on. Listen, I just don't have a whole lot for Kentucky. I'm just not buying it. I think they've played well. They've played together and they've won some games, Chip. But go down that schedule and tell me who impresses you.
All right, let's take a look here. They beat Florida at Florida, which is always an accomplishment, 27-14.
September 8th.
That was one. Yeah, that's way back. That's ancient history at this point. Uh, Mississippi State 28-7. That was at home. Mississippi State ranked 14 at the time. They got a very good defense. South Carolina 24-10 at home. On the road at Texas A&M, lost 20-14. Vanderbilt 14-7
at home.
at home. Barely pulled that one out. And in Missouri last week, 15-14.
So in the month of October, they haven't scored more than 15 points in there per game.
they have. I haven't paid that much attention to it. Tell me, have you? Has there been an outcry in Missouri about that call? Because I thought it was terrible.
It was
I
terrible.
It was
Yeah.
like, I mean, I could see him calling defensive interference there.
Offensive.
But, I mean, offensive interference, not defensive.
Yeah, there was a lot going on there. The offensive guy initiated the contact. It wasn't a catchable ball. I mean, there's that was a strange call. Shouldn't it come down to that? Missouri should have put him away. They were in control of that game. He said Benny Snell had 67 yards rushing in that game. And earlier this year, someone actually compared him to Herschel Walker.
Yeah.
I just
That was Paul Feinbaum,
Well,
which Paul sometimes likes to arrive at. He just see how people fun.
Yeah.
I don't think he
I
really
I
believed
was
that.
incredulous.
He is, yeah. That's a ridiculous.
I mean,
But which is not to say, I mean, Benny Snell's the real deal.
but don't you think Kirby got a little carried away yesterday too with the hyperbole, saying he had the best vision of any back he'd ever seen?
Oh, I was joking with Mike afterwards. I was telling him, you come out of these news conferences and you just like, wow, Georgia doesn't have a chance. But of course, you go over and listen to Mark Stoops' press conference and say the same thing. Let's get some questions real quick. We only have about 5 minutes left. A lot of people are asking this. And Jonathan Harding wants to know, is Ben Cleveland playing? Yeah, he was out there taking a snap yesterday.
Yeah.
I still think it's one of those that they'll go with Cade Mays or whoever they can. Somebody asked a little bit earlier, what's wrong with Cade Mays? I don't think anything's wrong with Cade Mays.
Well, Kirby said he played through some pain, but
Yeah.
we don't know what that.
Yeah, he's a freshman playing in the SEC. That's what-
Everybody's
that's-
I got pain this time of year, Tip. I
Yeah,
haven't played again.
you were
You
telling
got-
me about it. He's
you
hurting.
got
My
pain.
shoulder hurts carrying my bag into all these
Right.
games here. So you got all that. Yeah, a lot of questions on Big Ben Cleveland. And hey, to be clear, Ben Cleveland not being in there is making a difference. He is a redshirt sophomore. He's a 3-year player, and that's like imagine Cade Mays in 3 years.
Yeah, he's
2
a
years from
beast.
now, he's going to be all SEC. I don't think any doubt, and maybe All America. Isaiah Wilson, redshirt freshman, but that year of seasoning made a lot of difference. You got Cade Mays and Trey Hill taking maybe the 4th and 5th most snaps on that offensive line, both true freshmen. Same thing on the flip side. Now you wrote a good story about Jordan Davis. I think Jordan Davis is making a difference. Every time I see that kid in the game, he's making plays, and he's hard to move at 340, 330 pounds, whatever he is. So that's helping him a little bit. What you like here?
They want to know our overall thoughts on the play call and Cheney. I said earlier, I think this is what people need to realize. Jim Cheney's only going to do what Kirby Smart left him do. And Kirby Smart's in charge. He sees the play chart, and he knows what he wants the identity of his team to be. And he's going to tell Jim, I want more of this and I want less of that. And every now and then he's going to get on the headset and say, no, we're doing this instead. I mean, if you want to blame anybody, you blame Kirby Smart. This is his football team, and he's involved in everything. And that's positive too.
Yeah.
And I think that's good. I think that's the way most head coaches are. But Jim is only going to do the things that are okay with Kirby, and Kirby has the ultimate sound personnel as well. It's real easy, Chip, to blame the play call. Oh, that didn't work out. Are you going to say, wow, Jim Cheney was 12 on third down against Florida?
Yeah.
I don't hear anybody saying that.
That's right.
That
He was calling those same plays, and that was a lot of third and long.
He dialed up some great plays. He set up some great plays. And the players, more importantly, the players executed. The receivers ran the right route. Jake Fromm made their throws.
Yeah, I didn't like, when you get the play call and you start nitpicking like, I didn't like the jet sweep on 3rd and 1. I've never liked the jet sweep on 3rd and 1. I've seen it work, and I can understand why it works.
Earlier this year,
you've got an outnumbered box. He gets around that edge. There's nobody catching Cole Hardman or James Cook or whoever Georgia decides to run that on. I mean, they're going to be faster than anybody else on the other team. So I get that. I hate it when it happens, but I get what they're trying to do, just like the fake field goal, though. Don't let me get back on that.
why did we go away from the run against LSU? Doyle wants to know. Because LSU changed their front. It wasn't the same defense. Instead of having 6 guys in the box, there were 7. Instead of a 3 down front, there was 4. LSU has coaches too, and they make adjustments. So went back to the run after that drive against LSU, where they went 9 plays on 60 yards. The next 4 plays netted 12 yards. So these coaches aren't stupid. Jake Fromm he hasn't forgotten how to read a front, and he runs when it's to their advantage, and he calls the play call when the pass is to the advantage. it's this game is not played in a vacuum. It's not quite as simple as just well, they just decided not to run anymore. Well, no, LSU kind of decided that for them by saying we're going to change our front up.
Here's a good question here talking about Brock Evans. It's an assertion where he says, no disrespect uh, to Snell, who's really good, but he would take Swift or Holyfield over Snell. I don't know. This will make a pretty good debating point here. Is put Snell on this Georgia team, and what do you have, right? I mean,
I know
according to Kirby, you got the best vision in the SEC.
well, I know with the healthy DeAndre Swift, they look like. Going into that game at Florida, Chip, those running backs at Georgia had 154 carries against SEC teams, and the longest run was 26 yards.
That's right.
Swift went 33. That was long, and it was also Swift's first 100-yard game. So, and Swift looked 100%. That week off probably did him better than anybody else on the team.
Yeah, and I think the combination of it. Another thing that we saw in the Florida game, we haven't really gotten into this, because I thought we saw a pared down rotation. Something you and I both talked about. And all due respect, I think Brian Herring's a great backup. He really, I mean, when I say backup, he's great as a backup, and James Cook is great as a backup. But the key word there is backup. You saw a lot more of Holyfield and Swift, and you saw a pared down wide receiver rotation too, which I thought was helpful.
Yeah, you want to help Jake probably with the timing and the throws.
Yeah. We're going to have to wrap it up here pretty soon. We got about 1 minute. So we're going to look for a couple more questions for you, and then we're going to check out of here and keep cranking it out for you on dognation.com. Griff talked about this early on. Walter MacArthur points out that Missouri held Snell under 100 yards, and our defense is better than theirs. But, we'll have to see about whose defense is better. That'll be decided on the field Saturday. But let's be honest, in the grand scheme of things, Georgia is playing Kentucky for the right to return to Atlanta. You got to feel good about that overall, right? I mean,
somebody would have told you that at the start of the year. I think you'd have taken that, right?
Yeah, you'd laugh about this match.
Yeah, I think so. But you take a look at what Georgia's done after Florida wins, or after Florida games with Kirby Smart, and there's been a little bit of a cocktail hangover.
Yeah.
And they can't afford to do that. Now, I can't imagine this particular Georgia team, because of that lesson they learned at LSU, because of the focus that we've seen, Chip, I can't imagine Georgia going up there and laying an egg. I just can't. I think it would take some seriously inclement weather, driving rainstorm, something that would preclude Jake Fromm from being able to drop back and throw the football, because I think Jake is dialed in now.
Yeah. Just put 7 people in the box and we win, Travis Burnett says. Do we have who do we have that can block Josh Allen? That's come down to your tackle and tight ends, which I don't think this may be one of those games you don't see a ton of tight ends, because they may be involved in pass protection on Josh Allen, and that's you just do what you have to do. We got some more of this ridiculousness. Justin Minton wanting to know Fields transfer. Guys, that doesn't make any sense on a lot of levels. It's not going to happen here during the season. I doubt that it would happen after the season, because, I mean, if he goes and sits out somewhere, he's not going to play until the next year anyway. So it just doesn't make any sense for me. I think here's what I think. I think Justin Fields is getting better every day, and you're going to have a real significant quarterback competition next season, a la Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa. But as far as this year, Jake Fromm is your quarterback. This is Jake Fromm's team. And Justin Fields, you're going to use him if and where you can. Could he have helped him on that, first and goal situation? I think he probably could have, don't you? I mean, that's where I've been a little bit disappointed in Georgia not kind of whipping him out with a real purpose. Like this is what we're going to try to do with this guy. You think you could have helped him there?
Absolutely. And Kirby said at the start of the year that Justin and Jake both wanted to do whatever would help the team. And if you didn't read that Tebow story I did from Florida, Tebow talked a lot about what his approach was as a freshman. When he was a freshman and Chris Leak was the senior, Tebow was asked to play a role. And he had no problem with that, Chip, because he wanted to win a championship.
Yeah.
And he wanted to affect his team. And I'll bet you Justin Fields wants to win a championship and wants to affect his team. So I do think it was interesting when I asked Kirby about the Wildcat package yesterday. He said it was confidential and he wouldn't answer the question. And I know they were running McCole Hardman around out there in the Wildcat yesterday.
Yeah.
During the media viewing. Listen, Kirby Smart is not stupid. Yeah. We saw exactly what Kirby wanted us to see. I would be shocked if Justin Fields wasn't working in some short yardage package in the shotgun right
Yeah, I
now.
mean, I think that I think he needs to be utilized more. Period. That said, I mean, I think that Jake Fromm that played Saturday against Florida went out watched, all of last season. That was a pretty
He
doggone
cut
good
it
Jake
loose.
Fromm.
I think Jake was pressed. Yep. I
Yeah,
think he was afraid to make mistakes. I think he was taking too many safe throws. But now backs to the wall, hearing all the critics, people wanting to bench. I think he finally said, you know what? I'm going to cut it loose and whatever happens, happens. And he put that ball downfield. Man, he looked good.
yeah. Hey, we got to wrap it up here. We got a lot more to come. We got several stories we're going to put up this afternoon. Georgia's second practice this afternoon for the Kentucky game over at the Butts-Mehre Football Complex. Be there keeping an eye on that.
Hawkins Muckle update, we don't know. Kirby doesn't even mention him. So
We'll
I
have.
don't think he's back.
I'm wondering if he's on the team
Yeah.
anymore. It's kind of one of those things. We also were missing Amir Speed, and I didn't realize till everybody started talking about he wasn't out there, and I went back and looked and played hardly at all. We're at that time of year, guys, where there's, you're not getting utilized, and there'll be some moving and shaking.
Kirby said he
before
doesn't
the end
know
of the
about
year.
David Marshall's foot. It's questionable right now.
Yeah, highly questionable. I would say I didn't. Did you say he wasn't out there yesterday? If you're not practicing on Monday, probably not out there. Ben Cleveland, though, that's going to be interesting to watch. We'll keep a close eye on that. And Mike and I are both heading up to Lexington, Kentucky on Friday. Straight trip. I love it up there. I'm driving. It's a long way up there. It's better. Are you flying?
I'm driving.
It's a long drive. There's beautiful this time of year. It's horse season. They'll be racing, and Georgia
I
fans
don't
will
know
be
if
there.
Kentucky's got the horses this week.
Good segue. Somebody here said a while ago that the Commonwealth Stadium at Kroger Field at Commonwealth Stadium is not Tiger, is not Death Valley. But look, don't sell that short. It was a pretty raucous environment 2 years ago in Georgia. They were both battling. They were battling in particular to become bowl eligible, and Georgia barely beat them on a hot rod field goal. This one they've been sold out for 3 or 4 weeks in anticipation of this game.
Yeah, but I think tickets to the Duke Kentucky basketball game still cost more than
well, they probably do. Does Kentucky have a basketball exhibition
later that week?
Later that week.
Yeah, they play Duke.
They may be lining up for tickets for that. Anyway, we got to go, guys. We appreciate your commentary here on the forum. Be sure to download the Dog Nation app. You can get notifications anytime we update there. And follow Griff, man. He cranks out more copy than anybody I've ever seen in my life. So follow him, and you'll learn a lot about the dog. Thanks, and we'll catch y'all next week.